Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of the Football Forecast Show presented to you by Sportsmemo. My name is Eric Pauly, and today we're going to be breaking down not college football, but three marquee NFL games on the slate this Sunday, as well as going over some best bets with two of the best handicappers that Sportsmemo has to offer. So I'll bring them out for you now. We have Rocky Atkinson and Kevin Thomas. Rocky, Kevin, how are you guys today?
Hey, doing good, Eric. Glad to be here.
Oh, doing great. Excited.
Excited. I mean, we were treated to a fantastic beatdown last night by the Buffalo Bills. They really put the hammer on the Rams last night, and that was an eye-opening matchup. But that was just the start of what's going to be a very exciting NFL season. We have our first full slate of games this upcoming Sunday, and it's time to find some value in the betting market and help you guys pick in some winners. So we are going to start in Cincinnati with an AFC North matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the defending AFC champion and AFC North champion, Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, of course, have Joe Burrow, their star under center, with an improved offense that includes pieces to their offensive line to kind of bolster that unit. That was one of the worst in football last year. The total opened at 7 points for the Bengals, but now it's sitting at around 6 and 6.5, depending on the book you look at. The total opened at 45.5 and is sitting around there still as well. The Bengals put the beat down on the Steelers last year. The last matchup they had, the Bengals had a 41-10 absolute beatdown of Pittsburgh. So now I'm curious to see whether or not they're going to kind of ride that same mentality into this season, or if the Steelers, if they kind of have some chops to make a statement back against the AFC, again, the reigning AFC champions. I'm going to start with you, Rocky. Talk to me. What are you looking at in this matchup? Where are you finding value, and what are you seeing when looking at this game?
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, Cincinnati finished 13-8 last year. Pittsburgh was 9-8-1 on the season. Bengals had an incredible year, losing in Super Bowl 23-20 to the Rams. Pittsburgh did make the playoffs, but they lost to Kansas City 42-21. Big Ben is no longer the man in Pittsburgh. They'll be starting Mitch Trubisky this weekend. He's going to be backed up by a first-round pick, Kenny Pickett. If you remember, Trubisky was taken as a second pick in the draft by the Bears in 2017, and it did lead him to a couple of playoff appearances. And he has a winning record when he starts as well. So I think he can do just enough to keep the Steelers close in this one. A few trends to consider here. Pittsburgh's 35-15-2 against the spread their last 52 games as an underdog. Pittsburgh's 4-1 against spread last 5 games against division opponents. Pittsburgh 7-3 against spread last 10 games against AFC opponents. Pittsburgh 25-7 straight up, 21-9 against the spread the last 32 games when playing at Cincinnati, including 16-5-2 against the spread the last 23, and Pittsburgh's 21-10-1 against the spread the last 32 overall meetings in this series. Keep in mind, they still have Mike Tomlin here for Pittsburgh. I'm going to recommend Pittsburgh keeping this one close and play Pittsburgh plus the points on Sunday.
There you have it from Rocky. Pittsburgh plus the points. I have a quick question for you, Rocky. So, of course, you're going with those trends, and you finalized that segment by talking about the fact that they have Mike Tomlin, of course, the same head coach over that span. But, of course, now they have a new quarterback. You have to consider both of those things when handicapping any NFL game. Of course, those are two very crucial factors. How much stock do you put into the fact that there is a new quarterback playing when considering those trends, even though you do have that head coach stability, at least when considering those kinds of trends?
I think you have to factor it in a little bit, of course. Trubisky, this is not his first rodeo. He's not a rookie. He's been in the NFL for a few years now, and like I said, he's started many games. He's made a couple playoff appearances, so I think there's a reason he's starting. I think Kenny Pickett's going to learn some from him. Eventually, I think Pickett's going to be the man in Pittsburgh. But with Tomlin, he's still doing his own thing, and I think Trubisky's going to step in and be able to keep this one close.
See, now I really like that because I documented him a big Mitchell Trubisky hater, despite the fact that he did have some success in Chicago, and we can, blame a myriad of things about why that partnership with Matt Nagy didn't work out and why that Chicago Bears front office decided to clean house and kind of start over again. But I actually do think this is a very good scenario for Mitch, considering that they have Mike Tomlin, one of the best head coaches in the NFL. His resume speaks for itself. And Big Ben kind of bogged this team down last season. And I'm not saying Mitch Trubisky is a better quarterback than Ben was at any point in his career or anything like that. But at this point in time, he's more athletic. He's more agile. He can make some plays with his legs. And I actually do like his outlook this year. And I would consider maybe not going directly with the spread on this game, but the Steelers in a 6-point teaser would definitely be an angle where I'm looking at this game. So Kevin, looking at this matchup, do you agree with myself and with Rocky that we're leaning toward Pittsburgh, or do you see this game differently?
What I'm looking at in this game is what I looked at last night. Matthew Stafford, no preseason, off an injury, 3 interceptions. I have Joe Burrows in my fantasy league. I am not starting Joe Burrows this week because he has not played any preseason. And, he's coming off that surgical procedure he had. What are we going to expect? You had the 3 Pittsburgh quarterbacks all getting reps. They're all sharp for this game. I mean, this is going to be a huge game one for them. So I think Trubisky with the legs, Big Ben, his legs disappeared, and he was more of a drag a couple guys with him 5 yards. Trubisky, he can take off and run. Being a Packers fan, I had to watch that get with the Bears and stuff. Sometimes he tries to force things, but he never had 3 receivers like he's going to have with the Steelers coming up. They got 3 of the best, I think, underappreciated 3 receivers. So I would definitely look at the Steelers plus the points.
Again, another great point. Mitch Trubisky has shown his limitations in the NFL, but he's also shown some of the net positive things he can bring to an NFL team. So great angles by Rocky and Kevin on this matchup. I'm very interested to see how this breaks down this Sunday. And the Bengals, of course, are going to have that target on their back as the defending AFC champions and the Super Bowl runner-up from last season. So that's going to be great division to watch all season long, and I can't wait for this Sunday. But before, we're going to be moving on actually to our second of 3 roundtable games. We'll now be headed to an AFC West matchup, arguably the best division in football. I think it's pretty obvious that it is the best division, but we shall see over the course of the season. The Las Vegas Raiders head to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers in this matchup. It's a 4:25 game Eastern time on Sunday. The game opened at Chargers minus 3.5, and the total opened at around 52.5. And those numbers have stayed mostly the same. There are a couple threes out there for the Chargers now. We know that the Raiders eliminated the Chargers from the playoffs last season at the Week 18 game. And the Chargers, they knew that they had a ton of issues defensively, so they went out and signed J.C. Jackson and traded for Khalil Mack. J.C. Jackson, though, will not be playing in this matchup against the Raiders. Of course, they made the move for Davante Adams. They hired head coach Josh McDaniels to ideally get this offense more stabilized. But their offensive line has certainly regressed, and their defense is still not, I think, one of the better defenses in the league. I think there's still room for improvement there. And in such a tough division, it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. We're going to start with you this time, Kevin. What are you seeing when you're looking at this matchup?
I thought the Chargers coach should have been fired last year when he let the Raiders stay in that game and kick the field goal, but that's my opinion. He's a bright guy. Chargers team is stacked, and I think that line has sat at 3 because Jackson is out, so that's 1 corner less that the Raiders have to worry about, but that offensive line, you got Mack and you got Boza. These 2 guys are going to be on both sides. Pick your poison. The Raiders aren't going to be able to stop them, so it's going to be short stuff to Davante Adams, which kind of scares me because they know each other, Carr and Davante Adams, and that kind of scares me here. That's why I'm a little worried about that line, but I picked the Chargers to be in the Super Bowl this year. I'm going to stick with them in this game. I think they're going to be all fired up for this game, and I think they just have too much going for them. That Raiders offensive line kind of scares me here, but I do like Max Crosby. He's going to get his pressure. They are going to blitz more now with Graham as the defensive coordinator for the Raiders. They tried not to show too much, but they kind of showed their hand in preseason. Daniels wanted to get his offensive line going, so he left his starters in there and stuff, which would help them. I might take the Raiders in the first half, kind of like I should have took the Rams in the first half last night, but I didn't. Maybe take the Raiders in the first half, but the Chargers to cover the 3.
You heard it from Kevin Thomas, the Chargers to cover 3 points in Los Angeles. Quick question for you, Kevin. So you were calling for Staley's head last season, and he definitely heard the critiques from, I'm sure you, but obviously the media and from around the world, took a deep dive in his team and said, we need to get better on defense. Now you think they've made these improvements and are good enough to go to the Super Bowl. do you think Staley at this point can, get better? It was his first year as a head coach last year. Is the jury out on Staley, or you think that his ability to assess his team and make those moves gives you more confidence in him in year 2?
Yeah, I have all the confidence, but when you have the talent like he has, and you got Keenan Allen, he's not getting any younger. Williams finally stepped into his own, and Eckler, he don't have many miles left on him, but he's still a stud, top 5 fantasy pickup. So it's now or never for the Chargers, in my opinion. I mean, Herbert, he's got about 10 good years that he can keep going, but I think it's now the Raiders. I think I have the Raiders going to the playoffs. I like that. I don't think they're going to do much there. I like their team. I like how they're going to progress. But, Chargers, that's a unit. Those 4 offensive weapons have been together now for a while. Even though Devontae Adams and Carr played together in college, it might not show up right away. I love Renfro underneath too, but the Chargers are going to take that away. Those linebackers are beasts. So I think the Raiders are going to have to go deep. Could be a high-scoring game as usual here, but I think that Chargers defense gets pressure. So I think Carr, he throws 1 pick every game, especially against the Chargers. I think every time he's played him, he's thrown at least 1 pick, and that could go to the house.
Yeah, and that's a great point. The Raiders, of course, have had a great offense over the last couple of years, and now they are trying to maximize Devontae Adams and be even better than they were. But their offensive line was so solid these past half decade, realistically, that's definitely a big reason as to why they had the success that they had. When protection breaks down, Carr is liable to throw it anywhere, whether it be out of bounds on 4th down or short of the sticks on 4th down, because he's afraid of getting hit. So having Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa rushing you with a poor offensive line does not sound like a recipe for success for the Raiders. I'm on the Chargers as well, and would definitely look to find that 3 and not lay that 3.5. You do not want that hook, because 3 is the most likely.
And don't forget when Mac had to go back and play the Bears in the first game, I think he dominated that game. Now I know the Bears offensive line was sad, but I think he'll be fired up for this game too when he goes against his old, the Raiders now. So
yep. That's another great point.
You might want to look at a prop with him in there, maybe for 1 or 2 sacks or a forced fumble. He's good for those.
You could certainly find that for Khalil Mack, one of the premier defensive players who had a little bit of a shaky last season, but being in Chicago, of course, we could kind of write that off as a pass year. Rocky, given what Kevin and I just were discussing, how are you viewing this game? You're on the same page? You like the Raiders? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this isn't a game that I really love here. I think it's going to be a real good game. Raiders 10-8 last year. Chargers finished the season 9-8. It should be a great game. One of the best games to watch this weekend, in my opinion. Last time these two teams met at the end of last year, Raiders eliminated the Chargers from the playoffs with a 35-32 overtime win. I feel like both of these teams are going to be playoff contenders again this year in a very good AFC West division. My power ratings for this game, I have it at a pick'em. So I'm leaning towards the Raiders a little bit. A few trends here to consider. The Raiders are 5-1 against spread the last 6 years when playing week 1. So usually they get off to a decent start. Chargers 20-41-1 against the spread their last 62 home games. Chargers are 2-5 against spread last 7 games as a favorite. Chargers 2-7 against spread last 9 games against AFC opponents. The Raiders are 9-4 against spread last 13 meetings when playing at the Chargers. And the underdog in this series is 19-7 against the spread last 26 meetings overall. Just a slight lean for me to the Raiders plus the points in this one.
Heard it from Rocky, the Raiders plus the points, and I certainly like that. I mean, this division is going to be so close and come down to the wire all season long. This could certainly be a 3-10 win playoff division when it's all said and done this season, considering the high caliber of talent you have littered across all of these rosters. Even though, like we were saying earlier, this isn't a bet on the entire season. So while the Chargers may be the better team in the long run in the 2022 season, the Raiders could certainly cover a 3.5 point spread week 1. Of course, this is what they've been preparing for all offseason long, and the Raiders further, it remains to be seen, but they should certainly have a good roster this season. So that is going to bring us to our third and final roundtable game, but do not go anywhere because we still have our best bet segment after. We are looking at primetime football, Sunday night football. Buccaneers headed to Arlington, Texas to face the Dallas Cowboys. Both of these teams, of course, were bounced from the playoffs last season. They were both, again, good enough to be in the playoffs. Tom Brady flirted with retirement, decided to come back. missed a bunch of training camp for personal reasons. We can only imagine what those reasons could have been. But an underlying story for both of these teams is injuries to the offensive line. The Buccaneers lost 2 starters this offseason to injury, and the Cowboys, perennially solid left tackle, one of the better in the league, Tyrone Smith, is now out as well. That's a huge thing for specifically the Buccaneers, because we know Tom Brady, with all of his greatness and all of his lack of flaws, one of his flaws as a 45-year-old is he does not like to get hit, which who could blame you? Nobody would want to take a hit from Micah Parsons at any age, let alone being 45 and clearly on the last legs of the career. This game opened at Tampa Bay -1. The total was at 53, and now that total is shot down to 50.5, and the Buccaneers are about 2.5 point spread, 2.5 point favorites, wherever you're looking. Very, very interesting matchup. I have a lean, but considering some of the ways the numbers have fallen, I don't know if it's a good thing or if I've already lost on that value. But we're going to start with Kevin to hear his breakdown on this game. Kevin, Sunday Night Football, first of the year, Tom Brady in Cowboy Stadium. What do you think is going to happen?
I think we're in for a defensive battle here. I think that line's moving down that total for a reason. And with all the injuries and stuff, that's one of the things. But you got to look at the Cowboys. No Amari Cooper, gone. But then on defense, Anthony Barr, the ex-Viking linebacker, I hate the guy, but he's a stud. You put him with Micah Parsons, that's going to be a tandem. And then you go over on the other side, the Buccaneers, the unsung hero. We don't even talk about him in the Super Bowl. He was everywhere. Devin White, the kid's a stud. The only place that I think that the Cowboys could take advantage of the Buccaneers would be passing deep, and I don't think Dak's going to have. I don't think he's going to have time for that. And the big guy, Hakeem Hicks, who came over from the Chicago Bears, he looks good. He looks healthy. He's going to open up holes for those linebackers to run right through there because he needs double teams. He got those big clubs. He gets them up. Dak's saying he's in the best shape of his life. Well, he's going to be running for it. And it's going to be short passes to Darren Schultz, and he's not going to get much yards after because those linebackers are going to be all over him. And it's going to be the same on both sides because they're saying the Cowboys have the best cornerbacks in the league. I like to see it. Tom Brady's one of the better quarterbacks, so we'll see if they pick him off a couple times, which they probably will. Tom Brady, he's not scared to sling it. If he throws an interception, he's going to just keep slinging it because he knows he got his guys. Leonard Fournette underneath, and I think this one's going to be under the 50.5. I'm not going to give a play on this because I think this might be one of my premium picks. But I will give the total of under 50.5.
You heard it from Kevin, under 50.5. I think it's a great point to bring up the Hakeem Hicks signing. Easily one of the most underrated signings in the entire NFL this year. I mean, obviously, again, being on the Bears last year can be considered a past year, but this is a man who has his NFL resume is, you just take a look at his Pro Football Reference page and pull up the tape, and you can see why Hakeem Hicks is one of the best defensive linemen in the past decade or so. Absolute monster. The point you made about the Cowboys throwing underneath a lot, I thought also could apply to the Buccaneers. Yes, Tom likes to throw the ball, and obviously Dak does. These were numbers 1 and 2 respectively in passing yards per game as well as points per game last season. So you would think points, total open at 53. But I would go with under for the same reason you're saying about Dak. Brady does not want to even risk taking a hit whatsoever. He's going to take a 3-step drop. That ball is going to be out of his hand to whether it be Fournette, Godwin underneath if he's feeling healthy, Russell Gage, Julio, whoever they have on that offense that, is star-studded and loaded. So I think both quarterbacks are going to actually be looking to more of a controlled style game. It's obviously hard to run the ball on the Buccaneers, and it's pretty hard to run it on Dallas as well. But I think we're going to see a lot of 2-3 drops, quick throws, and a lot of clock being eaten up. So, Rocky, you have Kevin looking at the under. I am going with the under. I would have obviously loved it at 53. The line moved before I got it. I'm looking at 50.5, certainly to still take the under. Where are you seeing value in this game, Rocky?
Yeah, I think Tom Brady's coming back for a reason this year. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. I think he wants to go out a winner. And I think it's going to start here in week 1. Tampa Bay's 15-4 straight up the last 3 years, 14-5 against the spread in all games when the total is 49.5 or higher. Then on the other hand, Dallas, they are 2-8 straight up, 1-9 against the spread in all games when the line is +3 to -3. So any kind of low total like that, Dallas usually is getting beat here. Tampa Bay's 5-2 against spread last 7 against the NFC. They're 7-3 against spread last 10 as a favorite. They're 4-1 against the spread the last 5 meetings in this series, and the road team is 6-1 against spread last 7 meetings in this series. So I have very little faith in Dallas. I think they're going to be a decent team this year, but I think Tampa Bay is going to get it done this weekend.
You heard that, Rocky. On the prime time, Southern Night Football is taking the Buccaneers. I do agree with you that the Cowboys' outlook this season has definitely gotten a little bit murkier, considering the injury to Tyron Smith, considering the fact that they are really relying solely on CeeDee Lamb and a rookie, Jalen Tolbert, until Gallup gets healthy. Dalton Schultz, their tight end, gets a lot of love. I'm not sure how great he is. I think their defense is good, and Dan Quinn is a great defensive coordinator, but Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore, despite the fact that they led the league in offensive statistics last year, are not a good head coach OC duo, in my opinion. And I think that that's going to come back to bite the Cowboys in the back. They're the second best team in the NFC East behind the Eagles. I have the Eagles ranked higher and have them winning the division. So I'm very curious. Again, it is one game. It's the first weekend of the season. Would not be surprised if any team beat any team this year because it's week 1. Just for some teams, like it might be their only victory of the season. But after going through those 3 games, now we're going to be looking at our best bets for this weekend. We actually have a special running right now on Sportsmemo. It is a pick your team special. Pick any 2, 3, 4, or 5 handicapper combination. So you got 3 of us right here. You can add on a Dr. Chuck, a Joe D'Amico, a JM Sports, whoever else you like, and you save 10% off your purchase with code PYT10 at checkout. This is a deal that ends Monday at midnight, so make sure to take advantage of it before this NFL slate kicks off fully on Sunday morning. If you get it in Monday night, ideally you can get that for week 2 at least, so there is time to get value here. But before we go into best bets, we're also going to discuss what we have going on in Sports Memo, how maybe we did betting NFL or MLB or whatever last night, and then we're going to talk about our best bets. So, Rocky, how have you been doing lately? Good start to the NFL season, and what do you have going on the premium side, and what is your best bet for the weekend?
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, last night I had a top play on the Buffalo Bills in the NFL, so we got the season started off nicely. Coming off a year where I hit 70% last year with all my NFL picks, so excited about the NFL starting last night. Also, I hit 61% college football last year in the regular season, and I have 2 college football plays going Saturday night. And I also have another top 4% NFL best bet going Sunday. So come join us at Sports Memo. As far as our best bet here for the show, I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders here, laying the 2.5 points at home. Washington went out and got Carson Wentz, and he's going to start at quarterback here in their opener. They're off a 7-10 season this past year. I think they're going to be a little bit improved on that record from last year. Jacksonville, they went 3-14 last year, and I believe they're going to be somewhat improved as well. But Jacksonville has not won on the road in 3 years. Jacksonville's 1-5 straight up and against the spread the last 3 years when the line is +3 to -3. They're 0-9 straight up and 2-7 against spread the last 3 years. 40-66 against spread the last 136 non-conference games. Jacksonville's 2-9 against spread the last 11 games on grass. They're 1-6 against spread the last 7 games as an underdog, 1-7 against games overall. They're 0-4 against the spread last 4 games as a road underdog. Washington is 6-1 straight up and against the spread the last 7 meetings overall against Jacksonville, including 3-0 straight up and against the spread when playing at home. And they've covered 4 in a row in this series. So I'm going to recommend a play on Washington laying the points on Sunday.
You heard it from Rocky himself. Washington Commanders, the first game as the Commanders, have a home game, and they're facing the Jaguars. 2.5 points. You heard it from Rocky. You ride that 2.5. Make sure you check out his Sports Memo profile. 70% in the NFL is not easy to come by. By not easy, I mean it is ridiculously hard, and that just is a testament to how good of Rocky is at calling football. So great job, Rocky, last season. We're looking forward to a great season from you again this year. Kevin, talk to me. What have you been doing? What do you have up for the clients right now? And what is your best bet for this Sunday?
Well, as of now, I've shit the bed in college football and NFL football, taking the Rams last night. By Wagner, I thought him going to the Rams, and the guy played lights out, but Matthew Stafford, like I hinted on before, didn't do no preseason. It showed up second half of the game. They couldn't stop the Bills, and Josh Allen is a stud. That line sat at 2.5, way too long for me to take the Bills. I was a real public favorite there. So I jumped on the Rams and I got burned, and that does happen time to time. College football, off to a bad start, but like I said, college football, these lines will adjust. Vegas is not in the business of giving money away. So just hang on. I always do very good in college, and last year, 58% for the season in NFL. That's my goal again, maybe a little higher. And tonight, I have an MLB pickup that you can still get. My college football for tomorrow locked in. I didn't start putting any NFL Sunday picks up yet. I usually wait till Saturday night when the lines are nice and juicy and I know who's in or out. As of now, this free winner was the Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings under 47. I think it is now 46.5 as Lazard has been ruled doubtful, from questionable to doubtful. So now you basically got Aaron Rodgers throwing to Randall Cobb because he's the only one that knows Aaron Rodgers out there. None of the other guys have got a snap with him beside Lazard. I don't think Tunyon's going to be a big factor in this game because the Vikings do have Kendricks, good tight ends that will. Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be a dink and dunk. Aaron Jones is going to come up big here. Dylan's going to run the ball. I think that might be one of the Vikings' weakness this year is the run against the run. So LaFleur wants to run it. Aaron Rodgers has no problems dinking and dunking. Christian Watson, he's the one that's going to probably fill him for Lazard and Debs. But they're rookies. Aaron Rodgers isn't a fan of rookies, especially if he throws one and they drop it. He won't go back to them. Sammy Watkins, I don't expect much from him. I expect maybe he runs 10 yards and starts limping off the field. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Even though the Vikings do have O'Connell now, and when he was with Washington, Kirk Cousins had the best year of his career. I think he had 5,000 passing yards. He has probably the best wide receiver in Jefferson. But you got to remember the Packers' defense is healthy. They are a top 8 defense right now. You got Zaire Alexander. I think he can run with Jefferson if he has to. You got Douglas. He can run with he can run with Thielen. Thielen's getting up there in age. They got Gary healthy. You got this Preston Smith. Zadarius, I know he's now at the Vikings, so he's going to be coming after Aaron Rodgers. And we don't even know what's happened with Bakhtiari. They're ruling him as questionable. I think he comes week 2. So I think this is going to be get rid of the ball, keep Aaron Rodgers upright, and it's going to be a low-scoring game here.
You heard it from Kevin, a low-scoring game in the Green Bay Minnesota Vikings game. I think you made some excellent points about the Packers needing to run the ball a lot more frequently now, considering that their wide receiver core is largely an unproven group. And Cousins and O'Connell, they certainly did form a great pair in Washington. I'm really bullish on O'Connell and the Vikings' outlook this season. But that does not mean that they're due for a ton of yards game 1 and a lot of points. I think under is a great look because the Packers defense, like you mentioned, is surely a top 8 defense. And I think some could argue even higher than that. They are really a solid unit. So that it is the under on the Packers-Vikings game from Kevin Thomas. So my best bet to end the show, going back to what I have up, I have a week 1 NFL all access on Sportsmemo. You will get access to every single play that I end up releasing this week for one price on sportsmemo.com. I shot the bed myself last night. I was on Allen Robinson's over receiving prop total. I'm a Allen Robinson shareholder in other fantasy leagues, and while some people, he was getting roasted on the Twitter timeline, I'm personally not unhappy. Obviously, I wish I hit the bet, but the fact that he ran routes on almost every single offensive snap is a great sign for the future. I think that they will continue to build that kind of camaraderie. And last NFL season, I went 1-5 in week 1, and I still ended the season up over 69 units, so I'm not concerned about 1 3-unit loss to start the year. I have a play that I gave my clients on this pack now that I'm going to give to you, and I am taking Trevor Lawrence over 237.5 passing yards this Sunday against the Commanders. I'm not saying that Rocky's best bet on Washington is inaccurate whatsoever. I actually do like Washington minus the 2.5 myself. But Trevor Lawrence, his last season with Urban Meyer is comparable to some of those seasons that Mitch Trubisky's had with Matt Nagy, but you can even multiply that by 10 and how much worse it was that he had to deal with last year. They didn't even replicate an NFL team until they got rid of Meyer later in that season. Now he has Doug Peterson, a coach with Super Bowl pedigree who knows to throw the football. That's what he made his bones on with Carson Wentz, the Commanders quarterback back in Philadelphia when they made that Super Bowl run. And Wentz led them to that, I think it was like 11-2 record to start that season. It was really phenomenal. But Trevor Lawrence was the number one overall pick 2 years ago because he was the best player in the draft. If you're judging him solely on last season, then you have to take a better, deeper dive into what's going to happen. I would advise you to pay attention this year because he is going to light the league on fire. I'm not saying he's winning MVP. I'm not saying the Jaguars are winning 10 games. I'm saying he's going to remind everybody why he was the number one overall pick consensus, no doubt, coming out of Clemson in college. The Commanders have the 29th rated passing yard per game defense last season. They did not add anybody to their secondary. They're relying on Benjamin St. Juste, their second-year player, to be healthy, and William Jackson to just play better simply. Kendall Fuller has done a great job over there in Washington, but they're susceptible to the pass. And just like last year, Justin Herbert had his breakout party week 1 in Washington against Washington where he threw for 330 yards. Not saying that Lawrence is Herbert because Herbert seems to be another species, but he can certainly be one of the good to elite quarterbacks in the league. And 237.5 for a team that has a horrible pass defense. And Lawrence has solid weapons is just simply way too low. I'm going over for Lawrence on that pick. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to the Football Forecast NFL show presented to you by Sportsmemo. We had an absolute blast going over. And for Kevin, Rocky, and myself, thank you. Have a great weekend and have a great time on Sunday.